Hello, hi, and welcome. My name is Brianna. Welcome to my channel where I make content about astrology here and all things of that nature. Now, today's video, I'm going to be talking about 10 book recommendations since I got a lot of reviews on the last one. And I'm really grateful for that, considering that I only have very few videos on my channel, so I was very grateful that my last book recommendation did actually pretty well. I got a lot of reviews. So I decided to do another one because it's actually kind of embarrassing how many books I have in my collection. So I wanted to do 10 books that I recommend for any beginner witch, beginner spirituality person. If you're looking into spirituality, if you want to get into spirituality, 10 books that I recommend for that. Now, if you like that kind of content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, let's get into the video. So, I think that when you're getting into spirituality, the most important thing that you have to know is yourself. So a lot of the things that you learn in the beginning when it comes to divination, crystals, tarot, it's all kind of learning deeper about who you are. I think that a lot of people who are into spirituality end up selling their services after they have learned a lot about who they are and like kind of what makes up a person. So that's kind of what you want to do in the beginning if you are looking into spirituality. Okay, so just like the other video where I did astrology books from like the beginner to like the more kind of advanced, this book list is also for everyone, but I also wanted to do something that was like kind of applicable to everything and then going into like more niche things, because as you grow more into spirituality, you tend to find your niche, whether that be tarot, crystals, or any other niche that you might find like within your path. So the first book that I recommend is The Complete Grimoire by Lydia Bradras. Pretty sure that that's how you say it. I think it's a Hispanic last name, and it's the magical practices and spells for awakening your inner witch. Now, I like this book because it's on the newer side. Like, I feel like a lot of the books are kind of older, but this book, I believe, came out very recently. In 2020, yeah, this book came out very recently. One of the things that I like about it is that the artwork is really nice, but that's just like a personal thing. But then it talks about like what is witchcraft, how to practice witchcraft, the different types of witchcraft. You have the elements sign, like if you don't know what the elements are, working with the elements, how does the elements affect you in your daily life, breathing, meditation, grounding, herbs, spells, crystals, tarot. This is like a really good kind of complete beginner guide to thinking about whatever it is that you want to get into. And another reason I really like this book is because it kind of talks about like all of the topics that will become relevant to you. Like, for example, I touched on earlier how you'll find your niche. This talks a little bit about those niches and like what you would be interested in. Sweet. So on to the next book. This is also like the holy grail, I feel like. This is The Grimoire of the Green Witch by Moyle, and I personally this was the first book that I got, and this was also a book that I marked up. I mark up a lot of books. I have a lot of like indentations of like pages that I like. Now this book is very similar to the first one, except for it gives a lot more information on those niches. Very, very good book. It's very thick. To this day, I still have this on my altar. I still reference it. It has all of the tarot correspondences, crystal correspondences, herb correspondences, anything that you would probably want to think about or get into. The next book that I recommend is The Psychic Witch by Auron. Now this is a really cool book because it talks more about divination, and I think that that's just something that people would want to learn more about when they first start thinking about like witchcraft and spirituality. You become like very interested in, you know, this is the divine, and it's just really fun. And I think this book was really good to pair with the first two because it goes more in depth about the divination side. I don't think I even explained what divination is. If you are new to this, divination is ways of looking into the future, and then there's many ways of doing that. But this book specifically talks about meditation and manifestation, and that is also very important when you get into your spiritual journey, because you can't always do a lot of these things every day. I think when people first get into this stuff, they're like, oh, like I have to read like 5 books a day, I have to do like 10 spells a day, when in reality the things that you should be doing every day, maybe pull a tarot card or two if that's something that you're even into, and definitely meditate, stretch. Once again, this journey is to learn more about yourself, so all of these tools are supposed to help you in your journey to learning more about yourself. Another thing that this book talks about is shadow work. Shadow work is working with your shadow self. A psychologist called Jung came up with a theory that, you know, could relatively not so much of a theory as it is. A lot of people resonate with this theory where it's like you have a shadow self. This book also talks about why is it important to work on the shadow self, because I think that when I first started my journey, I immediately wanted to start talking to my spirit guides or like the people who watch over me, because if you believe in that, because once again, this is not a specific religion, this is all you know, this is all, you know, learning about yourself. So I personally believe that I have spirits watching over me. I believe my grandparents watch over me. I love them so much, and I immediately wanted to start talking to them, and it was just like, Miss Girl, slow down, like you have a lot of work to do. You have a lot of work to do right now as it is on your own before you can start doing any of the, you know, the little extra stuff. You want to work on yourself first. So the next book, like I said, I think very important to work on yourself first in this journey, understanding who you are, so if you want, you can help others, is a book that I spoke about in my previous video, is How to Be an Astrologer. This book is the holy grail because it talks about your birth chart, and your birth chart is very, very important when you're looking at spirituality, because some people have an innate nature to spirituality, and that is designated in your birth chart. So this book talks about like some placements that can indicate your gift, your psychic gift, your intuitiveness. Maybe you have it naturally, maybe you don't have it naturally, maybe that's something that you want to work on. So this book talks about how to find your birth chart and what exactly does that mean. It's kind of cool, you know, sun, moon, rising, like, you know, you see those posts on Instagram like, oh, like what's your rising? Your rising's in my sun, you know. It's fun, it's cool, I like it. I personally identify as an astrologer, so this book was right up my alley when I first started. Okay, cat's getting a little scruffy outside. Anyway, I spoke about this book in my previous video. Okay, so if you are really interested in it, it's in my previous video. Yeah, so next book. The next book I suggest is Moon Magick. I personally really like this book. This is by Diane Alkis, and this book talks about how the way the moon works with you. And that's another thing that you will learn with spirituality. Once again, I feel like I should make a separate video on this, is that not only does your birth chart affect your daily life, and then you will see in the first 3 books, not only does your environment, but also nature, you know, decides who you are and what's going on in your daily life. So personally, someone who has a few mental illnesses, these things are very important for me, because I would get to know, hey, if the moon is in Aries, I'm probably going to be a little bit angrier than usual. That means that I might be quick to react more than usual, and that also means that I might get into a lot more arguments than usual. And I think that that's very important, because then you can actually click into your shadow self, huh? See how I did that? Click into your shadow self and be like, you know what? It's not worth it. So yes, the moon cycle is very important. It talks about new moons, quarter moons, shadow moons, the moon cycle, the moon in the separate signs, eclipses, all the type of stuff that you can associate with the moon. It talks about when is the best time to do spells according to the moon, because fun fact, there is actually certain days where if you do a certain spell or you manifest something, that you might have a higher chance of getting what you want. And then this book is really good for that. So the first 5 books, like I said, this is the ultimate, I think personally, because it talks about meditation, journaling, herbs, crystals, tarot, all of this, very beginner's guide. It talks about the history, if you want to be a Wiccan or you just want to be a witch, because there is a difference. And this book, these 3 books talk about all of that good jazz, and I think that this is really, really good for anyone that's just starting out. Now, when you want to get a little more advanced, a little more intermediate, then I think these 2 books are good, because then you're understanding yourself and then you're understanding the environment and how to like work around that, because that is what spirituality is working with what you have, who you are, and what you have around you in efforts to make your life a little better. Okay, so the next 5 books are definitely more niche. Once again, you will find your niche as you go into your spiritual journey, but I do think that these niches are still good to study. So the next book on my list, probably the easiest niche to get into. Why? Because they're so goddamn pretty. Okay, so this is the Power Crystal Encyclopedia by Judy Hall. Now this book is really, really, really fun, and the reason why I think this book is fun, because look at this art, Miss Ma'am. Amethyst. So yes, they talk about amethyst, apophyllite, all the crystals that you could possibly think of. They talk about its vibration, the chakra correspondence, which I will get into after this book, and it talks about the psychological correspondences, power, healing power, transformative power, how to use these crystals. This is a really good reference book, and the reason why I think this is a really good for beginners or for anyone who is interested in this is because a lot of the times you're drawn to a crystal. Like, you see a crystal, even if you think a crystal is pretty, you're still kind of drawn to it in any way, and that might mean that subconsciously you might need that crystal. And this talks about why you might need that crystal. And once again, referring to the first 3 books, Holy Grail, they'll talk about how to use these crystals. So this book talks about what the purpose is for the crystals, and then these books talk about how to implement them in like different spells that you want to do and such. But once again, really, really, really good reference. I do reference this book quite a bit. And another disclaimer, any crystal book is fine. I just recommend this one because I think that it's really good for reference. The next book that I have is Chakras and Self-Care by Ambi, Kavanaugh. This book is also really, really cute. It's really aesthetically pleasing, but I don't know if you guys can see that there's like a little rainbow, and that is the chakra. So it talks about the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus chakra, and it talks about what incense works with it. It talks about what crystals work with it, how to engage it. Is it overactive? Is it underactive? How do you know those things? And your chakras are energy centers within your body, and in today's day and age, you're not as connected with your body as many people used to, or you should be. Therefore, it's very easy to neglect a part of your body. And the reason why I think learning about chakras is so important is because some days you might have a lot of headaches. Maybe your period is irregular, maybe you're not having as much confidence, maybe you have a sore throat. All those things are linked to your various energy centers in your body. And once again, witchcraft is not doctors, these are not FDA certified, if you will, but there is techniques, you know, incense, crystals, some tea, you know, some herbs that you can use to help these specific ailments that you have. And that's one of the reasons why learning chakras is very important. And chakras and self-care is really, really fun, and it's a really pleasing book. It talks about the matters very simply because it can be very confusing. It talks about the main 7. There are more than 7 chakras, but starting out, 7 is probably a really good place to start at. However, I don't think that it does really good justice talking about the history of chakras, because the history of chakras does originate from India, and it has roots in Hinduism. So therefore, learning about chakras, you have to be very respectful. You know, you want to call it the Muladhara, you want to call it the Ajna, the third eye. You want to call it by these names because, you know, these people, you know, they gave it to us, and you don't want to disrespect it, and you just want to appreciate it. So the next 2 books that I have, these go hand in hand. These are 2 tarot decks and 2 tarot books about tarot. They ain't tarot decks, child. The reason why I use 2 of them is for a certain reason, which I might as well just explain. I don't even know why I explain like that. Anyway, the first one that I recommend is Tarot, Your Personal Guide by Stephen Bray. Now, in this book, it goes through the major arcana and the minor arcana. The major arcana is the first set of decks in a tarot deck, and then the minor arcana is the set with the swords, wands, pentacles, and swords, wands, pentacles. The swords, wands, the cups. Jeez, girl. Anyway, for this book, it talks about the different cards. It goes one by one in each card. Really good for beginners. It talks about the reason why this card is a card in the first place. It talks about it as a situation, as a person. It talks about some questions that you might need to ask yourself, and also questions that you can use in your journal and your shadow work. The reason why this is so important is because you don't have to have any specific skill to read tarot. You might need a skill if you're reading tarot to someone else, but for most things, you know, you're asking your tarot a question. When I first started out, I thought that I had to do a spread every time. No, you could just ask your deck a question, and based on the answer that you get, you can reference this book, and you can say, okay, so this is what this card represents. This is what it could represent, a situation, as a person, or for me. And then it gives you some journal questions to ask for that. But tarot is really fun. I do think that it is kind of the next step after chakras and crystals, because this one is getting into the nitty-gritty, because once you start kind of understanding who you are asking these questions to, that's when spirituality can get kind of cool, because it's not just the universe. You know, I personally believe that it's your spirit guides who answer your tarot questions for you. So just make sure that if you are getting into tarot and you buy a few decks, you kind of acknowledge that, thank you for whoever it is watching over me. Thank you for answering my questions. That book only is a book of reference, okay? So Tarot, Connect with Yourself, Develop Your Intuition, and Live Mindfully by Tina Gong. This is a book that I actually use on an everyday basis, because it gives you different spreads to go by, and it also talks about each card upright and reverse. And that's the reason why I recommended the first book first, because it doesn't talk about what happens if you pull a reverse tarot deck, but this book goes in depth and talks about, hey, like if you pull the World, then what does that mean if you pull it like reversely in the opposite direction, because they do actually have 2 very different meanings, and it is something that you have to get accustomed to if you are thinking about reading tarot. Right, so thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. I am so happy that you enjoyed my shenanigans. I took quite a break from recording because I wasn't feeling well. I didn't have COVID. I was suffering from exhaustion because I am a workaholic, so I took a break, but you can't get rid of me. So I'm back, and yeah, so please like, comment, subscribe if you like this video. Link in my description box to my Instagram and my Etsy shops. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.